So you made the decision, you're going to form an LLC for your business. Now what do? How do you actually do that? Watch this video for the 8 steps you need to take to form your LLC the right way. But first, make sure you hit subscribe and the little bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video on how to legally protect your business. Hey, I'm Amy. I'm a lawyer and I help online entrepreneurs go from totally clueless to completely covered when it comes to the legal aspects of their business. Forming an LLC is always the first step that I tell people to make when they are getting their business started. It gives them asset protection. It forms a wall around your assets that really helps you get started and on the right foot, make sure you're protected right from the beginning. And it's the first step that I teach inside of my 3-step asset protection method that I teach inside my signature program, Cover Your Assets. So I'm hoping since you're here, you already know what an LLC is and why you might need one. So we're just gonna dive right into the steps to actually forming your LLC because I think that's why you're here. So let's get started. The first step in forming your LLC is going to be choosing the state where you want to create it. For most people, this is going to be the state where you do business. And for us online entrepreneurs, a lot of times that's going to be where you live. It's going to be, if you have a home office, it's going to be the state where your home office is. And if you have an office down the street from you or a co-working space or something, wherever you actually do your business, you sit down on your computer and you do your business in whatever state that is, that's where, for the most part, you should form your LLC. Now, some people might wonder, I've heard that there are certain states where you should form your LLC because they're more LLC friendly, right? So one of those states is Delaware. People talk about all the time how you should form your LLC in Delaware because they're really business friendly. Now, that is true to an extent, and so for some big businesses, it does actually help them to form an LLC in Delaware. But for the most part, if you're doing online business, if you are a smaller business, it's not going to make that much of a difference for you, and it actually creates additional hurdles as well. So if you think that you might want to form an LLC in a state that is different than where you live, I would definitely recommend talking to a lawyer about your specific circumstances to make sure that it actually benefits you, and don't just do it just because. Another reason that people look at a different state for forming their LLC is taxes. So there's this myth that, you form an LLC in the state that doesn't have income tax, like New Hampshire, where I live, does not have income tax. So people think if they form their LLC here, then they don't have to pay income tax. That is not true. So income tax is tied to where you actually make your money, where you do your business and where you collect that income. So if you live in a different state and you operate your business in a different state, then the New Hampshire no income tax isn't going to benefit you. You'll still have to pay taxes in the state where you live and are doing your business. And on top of that, most states have a requirement that any LLC doing business in their state is registered in the state. And this is called foreign LLC registration. And so you form your LLC in one state, but if you're operating in another one, you still have to register with the state to let them know that you're doing business in the state. So it's really, you're doubling your work there and you're not really getting much benefit for it. So for the vast majority of people, just form where you live, where your residence is, where you're domiciled, where you're actually doing business, which for a lot of us, that's all gonna be one place, and you just register in that state where you live. Step number 2 in forming your LLC is going to be choose a name. This is the fun part, right? So you may already have a name in mind, but there are a couple things that you need to be aware of before you commit and file that paperwork. So the first thing, now that you've chosen a state, you can go search on the state's website to find out if anyone else has the same name or a name that is too similar to yours or the one that you want. This is generally really easy to do. Most states have a business search or a business lookup, and you can just Google the name of your state and business search or registered business search, registered business lookup, and they'll have some kind of portal that you can use. Usually it's free, although some states charge like $1 or $2 per search or something minimal. And as a preemptive measure, it's also a good idea to search the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office search database to make sure that no one else has a registered trademark that's too similar to your business name, because then you could get a cease and desist letter and not be able to use that name anymore. And again, you can just Google USPTO trademark search, and it's make sure it's the .gov site, and it's a free search tool, and you can just type in the name and minor variations on the name to make sure no one has anything too similar. Another thing to know here is that you also will need to have LLC or limited liability company or some indication of the entity type, which is LLC, in your business name. So most states, it's LLC always works, but there are some other options like limited or LTD that only certain states allow that. So there'll be information on your .gov site for your state to tell you exactly what the structure of that business name needs to be. But generally, just adding LLC at the end of your name is going to be good. So just make sure you have that in there before you file. And usually it's right on the paperwork. It'll tell you exactly what that name structure needs to be. Step number 3 is deciding how you want your LLC to be managed. Now, that probably doesn't make any sense to you, so let me back it up and explain a little bit. In the formal structure of an LLC, there needs to be someone in charge of making the decisions for the LLC. And that's not just for the business, but for the legal structure of the business as well. So who gets to decide that you can take out a loan, who gets to make changes to the operating agreement or the way that the business is run, who gets to approve important decisions. And so that is LLC management. And there are 2 options for LLC management. The first is to have the LLC be member managed, and the second is to have it be manager managed. So the owners of an LLC are called the members. So anyone with an ownership interest in the LLC is a member. And now if you're the only owner, then you're the only member. For a manager managed LLC, you have the option of electing or appointing someone to serve that role of manager so that the owners can take a step back and not be in charge of everything in the business and making all those decisions. So whether you choose member managed or manager managed depends on how involved the owners want to be. If you're the only member of the business, if you're the owner, you have 100% interest, then it probably doesn't make sense to have an outside person be the manager or even to elect yourself as manager. You can just choose member managed, and then you get to make all the decisions like you would be anyway. And it's okay, like generally 2 to 3 members, you can definitely have it be member managed. You have to do votes and stuff. But if there are more members in that, it can get a little unwieldy to have everyone show up at meetings or show up at votes, because you need votes in a lot of cases to make important decisions for the business, and you need all those members to agree. So that's why some people might choose manager managed instead, because then they can have one person making the decisions instead of a group. So if you want an outside person, or only one of the owners, one of the members to make all the decisions, then you can choose manager managed. And you make that choice now because they ask you that on the forms that you file, so you need to know ahead of time what that means and what your choice is going to be. Step number 4, decide if you want a registered agent and what your official address is going to be. And I roll that together for good reason, so let me explain. A registered agent is the person who is listed on record with the government when you file your LLC, who receives service of process for you. So if you're going to be sued, the registered agent is the person who receives the paperwork for that lawsuit for you. So if you have seen on TV, you've been served, the person who is being served is the registered agent. And that ties into your address because the registered agent's address is going to be that official address, and that's where you're going to get the important documents if you ever need to. So you can absolutely serve as your own registered agent, or you can pay a service. Lawyers do this, and there are also outside businesses. You can Google registered agents in your area. There'll be lots of options. And this is usually like $200 a year, and they make sure that you receive those important documents. Another reason people like to have a registered agent is because it gives them a level of privacy with their address. So if you are running a business out of your home and you want to be your own registered agent, you have to have a physical address that you put onto your paperwork when you file your LLC. So it cannot be a P.O. box. The address of your registered agent cannot be a P.O. box. So for a lot of us, that's going to be your home address. And that means that your home address is going to then be available in public documents that anyone can look up. Now you might think, okay, well, I have a virtual mailbox with an actual physical address, so why can't I just use that? So just a quick warning for you, a lot of those virtual mailbox, virtual office, like, you know, you get an actual address that you get mail to, but you don't actually go to the office there, or maybe it's a co-working space or something. A lot of places like that offer that service will have in their terms that they cannot serve as a registered agent address. So they don't want the responsibility of having to accept those important documents, and they'll say that you're not allowed to use their address as your registered agent address. You also want to make sure that you can reliably receive mail at your address. So if you have issues with receiving mail, or you are maybe you are a travel blogger and you're out a lot and you want someone consistent who can receive mail for you, then having a registered agent might be a better choice. Another reason to have a registered agent is because they serve as the point of contact within the state for your business. So if you live in a state that is not where you want to register your LLC, then you have to have a registered agent who has a physical address in your state. So then you would have to hire someone who has a physical address that can receive that service of process within the state where you register your LLC. So whether to have a registered agent is really kind of a personal decision. There's a lot of debate around it. There are some attorneys who say, you make sure you always hire a registered agent, and there are some who say it's a total waste of money because if you have a reliable mailing address, then it's not that big of a deal. So I want to know, let me know in the comments, are you going to get a registered agent and why? I would love to hear, because it is kind of a debated subject. So let me know what you decide. Okay, we are more than halfway there. So if you're enjoying this so far, make sure you hit that like and subscribe so that you can get more content just like this from me. Now let's move into step 5. Step number 5 is actually filing the paperwork. You've done all the prep work, you've made those important decisions, and now you're ready to actually file with your state. So this paperwork is going to be called your Articles of Organization, or sometimes a Certificate of Formation. The different states have different names for it, but it's all very similar documentation. And that's going to ask you for the name of your LLC, your registered agent and address, and sometimes they'll want information about your members or owners as well. So most states, this is really simple to do. You can file it online. You can just type in your state LLC registration and make sure you're choosing the .gov site for your state, and it'll be the Secretary of State's website. When you Google this, you're going to get probably like 5 or more listings ahead of your .gov site that are going to be like, pay us $50 and we'll file this for you. It is free to file your LLC yourself. So it is not necessary to hire one of those services to fill out. Basically all they're doing is filling out the form for you. Instead of having it be like go through the clunky state's website, you're just filling in a form on this pretty software. So if you want to pay money to do that, you're totally welcome. But generally speaking, it is not worth the extra few $100s that they're going to charge you when you could have just filled out that form yourself. So filling out that form is free, usually on the Secretary of State's website. You can submit it electronically. Sometimes you can fax it. Some states are still stuck in the Stone Age and you have to mail it in, but it'll be clear. Pretty much every state has a clear website that tells you exactly what steps to follow. So while accessing and filling out that paperwork is free, actually registering your LLC is not. So there's going to be a filing fee that you have to send in with that paperwork, and that can be anywhere from $50 to $800 depending on your state. It can vary very widely. In my state, in New Hampshire, it is $100. In Massachusetts, it's $500. In California, it's $8. So just look at that website and make sure you have that money for the filing fee. And if you're filing electronically, you can pay online, but sometimes you might have to mail in a paper check. So just check with that website will tell you, the state's website will tell you exactly how you need to do that. Once you file that paperwork, in most cases, the turnaround time is really fast. Sometimes immediately, sometimes within 2 or 3 days. But in some states, especially where you have to mail in the actual paper, it'll take a little bit longer to get back. It might take 2 or 3 weeks to get that confirmation of registration back. And quick note here, make sure that when you get that paperwork back, you get that confirmation. It's going to be either a certificate of formation or something with a seal on it that looks really official that says you have your LLC. Make sure you file it. I cannot say this enough times. Don't just leave it on your desk. Don't put it in your pile of mail. Like, actually file it somewhere with your important documents for your business, and make sure you scan it to your computer, save it digitally, save that original. I can't stress this enough. Like, don't lose that, because you need it for proof when you're opening a bank account. You need it like for a lot of different situations for your business. So don't just leave it laying around. Put it somewhere where you're going to remember where it is. Now, for most states, you're done. But for a couple of states, there are going to be some additional supplemental filings that you might have to do. And so they'll notify you either when you're filing online or when you get that paperwork back. They'll tell you if there are any other requirements. So California has some additional supplements that you have to file. But in most cases, that's not the case. Now, a quick warning about New York. There is a publication requirement. So you have to publish your intent to form an LLC in the newspaper for a couple weeks before you actually get to file your LLC. And so all those requirements will be on that state's website again. But that might be one of the few cases where it might make sense to actually pay that $100 to a company to just go through that process for you, so you don't have to deal with the publication in different newspapers, because it has certain language that you have to publish. So just a heads up there. Okay, you have filed your paperwork. Now you officially have an LLC. And most people stop here, but we're not going to do that, because we're actually doing this the right way. So we are not quite at the end yet, but we're almost there. The next step is to create an operating agreement. Now, this is not required in every state, but I do recommend it regardless of where you are, because an operating agreement is the document. It's basically like a charter for your business. It's the document that outlines your processes, your organizational steps that you have to follow for, voting on things and how your business is going to be managed. And it outlines all of that for you, so you can easily refer to it and follow it. And it also, if you have multiple members, it outlines the ownership percentages and responsibilities of everyone who is involved in the LLC. So it's a very helpful document to have. And if you don't have it, then you are stuck on the whims of the state. So every state has default rules for how LLCs are governed, and your operating agreement can help you change those rules. So you don't have to be stuck with the defaults. You can make your own decisions. And so those defaults might be things that you don't want to do or you don't know how to do, and so you want to get around them with an operating agreement. So I have an operating agreement template available for single member or multi-member LLCs, available in my template shop, and I'll put the link down below in the description so you can grab that there. Or if you have, specific ideas of how you want to run your LLC, it's always a good idea to talk to an attorney and have them draft a custom operating agreement for you. Step number 7, seven, is going to be to get an EIN, employee identification number, or tax ID number with the IRS. Now, an EIN is not always required. If you have only one owner of your LLC, it's not always required. But I do recommend that you get it because it's free. It doesn't hurt you at all to have one. And it gives you a layer of anonymity for your Social Security number. And most banks will require it if you want to open a business bank account, which you should, because now that you have an LLC, you should have a separate bank account for your business. So get an EIN. It's really easy. You can go to irs.gov and file it right there. Again, this is one of those things that's totally free to do. There isn't even a filing fee. And there are going to be lots of businesses offering to register it for you for a fee. Don't pay that. Just don't do it, because all you're doing is typing your information into someone else's platform, and they're going to then just fill in the form for you. So there's no point. And EIN it's all electronic. You just go through the online portal for the IRS and you get it back within 24 hours. And then you can use that as your tax ID number anytime anyone asks. So if you are a contractor, you might have clients ask you for a W-9, And this is that anonymity I was talking about. So if a client wants a W-9 from you, you put in that EIN instead of your personal social security number so that you're not just handing it out to everyone. Quick heads up, when you're filing for that EIN, you need to have a real person tied to the business for the IRS. So you're going to have to choose one member, one owner in your business, and tie their social security number or tax ID number to the business's EIN. So to get an EIN, you have to already have a social security number or a tax ID number if you're a permanent resident. All right, the last step number 8, is going to be to get business licenses. So some states and or counties and or towns, depending on where you're operating, will require you to have a business license or a license to collect sales tax or all different kinds of licenses, a payroll tax license. And so you need to make sure that you have those in the name of your LLC before you start doing business as your LLC. So many of you have started as yourself, operating a business as a sole proprietor. And so if you already have those licenses, you need to make sure that you transfer them over to your LLC. And in some cases, you're going to be able to transfer them. And in some cases, you'll have to reapply from scratch. And so that really depends on your state, your county, your locality. So it's probably a good idea to talk to a local attorney about the business licenses that you might need and how to get them and how to transfer them or reapply as your LLC so that it's all under your LLC, because you have a business entity now that is separate from you as an individual. Congratulations! If you've gone through all 8 of these steps, you officially have an LLC and you have a business entity, your assets are protected, and I'm so excited for you. If you want a more in-depth walkthrough of these steps and the other steps inside of my asset protection method, then I want you to go ahead and watch the free training that is linked below this video, all about how to protect your online business. So now that you know the steps, are you going to form your LLC? Tell me in the comments when you're going to do it and what state, so you have accountability for forming your LLC. I want to know. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video on how to legally protect your business. And now that you're all ready to form your LLC, you need to know how you want it to be taxed. Watch this video to find out the difference between an S-Corp and LLC and how choosing S-Corp election for your LLC might save you money on taxes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.